Hey everybody, Jesse with Survival Summit. Here with a new podcast today called How to Stay Private. If you listened to our previous episode called Digital Predators, you know where I stand. The biggest threats today, they're not just physical, they're digital. And most of the time, they walk right through your front door. Not in person, but through your apps, your car, your doctor's office, even your children's school. This episode is not hypothetical. Every story I'm going to share is very real, and every strategy is tested. We're going to walk through actual cases of how your privacy is being stolen in plain sight by corporations, governments, and platforms we use every single day. I'm talking hospital systems sharing medical records with Meta, safety apps selling your kids' GPS data, cars that know when you've had sex. Yes, you heard that right. And the worst part, most of this is legal, or at least was, until someone got caught. But this isn't just a doom scroll. You'll walk away with practical ways to lock down your digital life, protect your family, and finally understand what privacy really means in 2025. So grab your coffee, your notepad, whatever you use to track threats, and we're going to get into it. Let's start with the stuff you can't ignore, real stories from the last couple years. These aren't conspiracy theories, they're court cases, whistleblower leaks, and investigative journalism. If that really exists anymore. But I tell you, in some cases, it actually does. Just not when it comes to politics. Journalists from The Markup and Stat found that over 30 hospital websites had Meta's tracking pixel embedded on their appointment booking pages. Why was it doing that? What was it doing exactly? It was sending data directly to Facebook. Patient names, doctor names, appointment dates, search terms like pregnancy termination. This is not a coding bug. It was deliberate ad tracking. HIPAA doesn't apply if the data comes from a third party, a legal loophole most patients never know anything about and never see. Hospitals like UCSF, Cleveland Clinic, and dozens more were implicated in this. Multiple class action lawsuits are now pending. Meta, they just shrugged. Here's the lesson. Your health isn't private. If you're online, someone is bound to be watching you. What about Life 360? Selling kids' location data? Sounds a little crazy. Life 360 pitched itself as a family safety app. Millions of parents installed it to track their kids' location in real time. I'm one of those parents. But in 2021, reporters found that Life 360 was quietly selling that GPS data to data brokers. Not anonymized, not aggregated, just raw, real-time location. The company made millions selling this to hedge funds, marketing firms, and even the Department of Defense contractors. One whistleblower said it was the most valuable source of raw data they had ever seen. What's the lesson there? Apps that promise peace of mind often come with a privacy cost you never agreed to. All right, what about Nissan and in-car spying? This is from 2023, just a couple years ago. In a bombshell report from Mozilla, Nissan admitted in their privacy policy that their vehicles may collect data on sexual activity, health diagnoses, genetic information, and yes, political and religious beliefs. They also reserve the right to share or sell that data. The kicker? You agreed to it by driving the car. How crazy is that? Most major automakers, Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, BMW, they collect and share some form of personal and behavioral data, from braking habits to voice commands. Your car is basically now a surveillance platform on wheels. What's the lesson there? You don't even need to go online to be tracked anymore. You just have to be driving in a car. And listen, these are not fringe cases. These are mainstream. And this is just scratching the surface. If this stuff doesn't piss you off yet, it should. And I really have a hard time understanding if it doesn't make you mad. All right, well, let's talk about now how digital tracking actually works. We're going to unpack the machine behind the machine. Because the moment you touch a screen, go into a building, or plug into your car, you are generating data and someone is watching. It's not science fiction. It's how the world runs now. Here's how their economy actually works, broken down into 5 critical layers. Number 1, passive collection, the exhaust you can't see. Every click, every scroll, every swipe. Everything you do makes you produce something called data exhaust. It's basically the digital version of footprints in wet cement. And unless you actively stop it, those footprints lead right back to you and exactly everything that you're doing. Here's what gets scooped up automatically: the device type, the battery status, screen size, motion sensors, ambient auto picked up by apps with microphone access, Bluetooth signals that detect nearby devices, even if you've never paired with them, app open times, app close times, and showing, worst of all, your habits and routines. It also shows IP addresses, show your location down to the neighborhood. Yes, you can turn off GPS and still get tracked. This stuff rides in the background unless you lock it down yourself. Here's a real case. In 2020, the New York Times bought location data from a broker and tracked people at the Capitol during the January 6th riot. No names, just pings. And from that, they were able to identify individuals. Number 2, behavior mapping. You become a predictive profile. Once all that data is collected and it gets combined, not to sell you one ad, but to predict your behavior. Facebook, for an example, has over 52,000 unique data points per user. They basically know when you're the most emotionally vulnerable, what time of the day you click impulsively, who influences your decision, whether you're likely to vote, whether you're in a new relationship, maybe you're pregnant, whether you're depressed, maybe you're broke. They know it. Here's a real case. Target famously used purchase history, like unscented lotion and calcium pills, to predict pregnancy before a teenager even had told her father. He found out via a coupon booklet mailed to the house. That's not just creepy. It's also very lucrative for these companies. The more predictable you are, the more you're worth. Number 3, targeted exploitation. Micro manipulation in action. This is where it goes from data to actual control. Advertisers, political campaigns, even foreign governments now use predictive data to micro-target us. They are altering what news we see, nudging our opinions, testing headlines against our known fears, and they're serving ads when you're tired or emotionally low. Here's another real case. Cambridge Analytica used Facebook data to micro-target swing voters with psychological warfare during the 2016 US election. They didn't need to change everyone's mind, just a few thousand. Think about that. And most people never even knew they were being played. Number 4, legal loopholes and consent theater. You've seen the pop-ups. We use cookies to improve your experience. What that really means is we're collecting everything we can unless you stop us. The tech industry, they've mastered what I call consent theater. It's the illusion of choice. Accept all is in bold, settings grayed out. Opt-outs require like 7 million clicks. You agree to new terms simply by continuing to use the service. And most privacy policies are written at college law level. One study found it would take 76 workdays per year to actually read every policy the average user agrees to. So what happens? You click, and they track, and the game continues. Number 5, data brokerage, the silent marketplace. Behind the scenes, there's a shadow economy. Data brokers you've never heard of, buying and selling personal info in bulk. These brokers can legally buy your GPS history, your credit card transactions, your browsing habits, your Amazon wish list, your political affiliation, even your medical search queries. That could be a scary one depending on what you're looking up, so keep an eye out for that one. Here's a real case. In 2022, the Federal Trade Commission fined data broker Kochava for selling precise GPS data tied to visits to abortion clinics, shelters, and religious centers. No warrant, just a purchase order. These companies operate in the open, and unless you live in California or Europe, you probably can't even opt out. None of this is an accident. This is the business model. And if you're not angry yet, you should be. So how do you defend yourself against this? What are the tools? How can you avoid this happening to you and your family? Here's the thing. You can fight back. You just need the right tools and you need the right mindset. We're going to break this down into 4 defense layers: your devices, your behavior, your software, and your philosophy. Layer 1, device lockdown. Start with the basics: your phone and your computer. You should be using a password manager, Bitwarden or 1Password, something to create unique logins for every account. No more reusing Hunter 2 for everything. You also want to enable 2FA, two-factor authentication. This should be the default for email, banking, cloud storage. use anything you can that's app-based, like Authy, not SMS. You want to encrypt your phone and laptop. iPhone encrypts by default. On the Android, you got to go to Settings, Security, Encrypt. You also want to turn off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi Auto Connect. Those are going to leak your location constantly. But most people, you don't need James Bond tech. You just need to stop leaving the digital front door wide open. Now, what about smart browsing habits? If you're still using Chrome with no blockers, friend, you're basically naked on the freeway. You want to use Brave or Firefox. Both of those will block trackers by default. You can also add extensions like uBlock, Origin, and Privacy Badger. You want to search smarter. Try Brave for that. You can also use Start Page. They give you Google results, but without surveillance. And please ditch the free VPNs. If you can't afford a paid VPN, it's better to avoid using one altogether than to use a shady free one, unless you know a lot about the company or its open source software. Let's see. I use ExpressVPN. Proton VPN is also very good from what I hear. You also want to clear your cookies regularly, or use your browser's private containers for different services. Treat browsing like operational security. Don't mix identities. Don't stay logged into multiple accounts in the same tab. Listen, you might be asking, I don't do anything wrong. Why would I need to do this? Again, they're selling your data. They're tracking all your habits. We're really close to like pre-crime indicators, and it's super creepy. So even if you're the best person in the world and you do nothing on the criminal end, do you still want them spying on you? Here's another big one. You want to clean up your apps. You have to clean up the apps. Delete any unused apps every single week if you can. They're leaky, even in the background. You want to review all your permissions. Like, does your Note app need your camera? No, of course not. You also want to try to use Signal for messaging. Fully encrypted, no metadata retention. WhatsApp, well, it's better than SMS, but remember it's also owned by Meta. Log out of accounts whenever possible, especially Amazon, Google, social media apps. You don't want to stay logged into those if you don't have to. Layer number 4, privacy as a mindset. This is really the most important part. This is something you're going to want to think about. Stop treating convenience as sacred. Privacy often means choosing the slower road, and that's okay. Assume someone is always watching. That's not paranoia. That's digital situational awareness. You want to teach your family. If your kids are old enough to use a tablet, they're old enough to understand digital safety. You want to shift from nothing to hide to everything to protect, especially when it comes to your kids. I'm not asking you to live off the grid in a cave or a cabin, but you can absolutely live on grid without selling yourself out every time you log into a device or an app. Those of you who have been following us since 2015 know that we rarely do anything with sponsors. Cape Mobile, they're different. It's a new mobile service that we think you're going to love. The other carriers, they profit by tracking and selling your data. Cape is a phone service that refuses to play that game. With premium nationwide coverage and privacy baked in at the core, Cape gives you control. Cape has minimal data collection. They can't misuse what it never asked you for. They don't ask for your name, no social security number, not even an address. You get SIM swap protection. Your number is locked with a private key phrase that only you control. You get enhanced signal protection, stopping attackers from tracking your location or intercepting calls. And you get encrypted voicemail. Messages are encrypted so only you can access them. And private payments. Subscribe without handing over any personal billing details. Cape recently partnered with Proton, leaders in secure email and VPN. And Bloomberg reported that the U.S. Navy trusts Cape to secure communications in Guam. Check the link in the description to see how you can switch to Cape today. Be sure to use the coupon code SurvivalSummit33. And thank you, Cape, for sponsoring this video. You just haven't seen all of them yet, but they're out there. Deepfakes, synthetic identities, we talked about that in the other podcast before. Deepfake tech is now so good, scams are hitting families directly. In early 2024, an Arizona woman got a call from her daughter, crying, terrified, kidnapped. Except it wasn't even her daughter. It was a clone voice generated from a few seconds of a TikTok audio from one of her TikTok videos. No ransom was paid, but the damage was real. It still happened. Imagine getting that call. The voice, the face, even the writing style can now be mimicked in minutes. This is the weaponization of AI against your identity, and it's already here. Biometric data abuse. Facial recognition is now used in over 30 U.S. airports. Might even be more by now. Some police departments use it with zero oversight. Even Amazon's Ring camera network was used to surveil protesters without warrants. You might say, again, I'm not doing anything wrong. But that's not the point. If your movements can be tracked without your knowledge, you've already lost your freedom. What about centralized digital IDs? Governments are pushing really hard for a unified digital ID tied to your bank, your license, your healthcare, and your biometric signature. On paper, yeah, maybe it sounds efficient. In practice, it's one central target that once breached or manipulated affects every single corner of your life. Once that door opens, it's rarely closed. The tools to build a digital police state, they already exist. Whether they're used that way depends on how much resistance they meet. We are the resistance. We're not going to let this happen. Let's also talk about some myths, a little bit of Q&A, and some takeaways from all this. We're going to hit some of the common questions and some of the bad advice that you hear constantly throughout the internet. Here's one question. I'm not interesting enough to be tracked. Well, that's false. Your value isn't in who you are. It's what you buy, who you influence, and how predictable you are. Because again, the more predictable you are, the more valuable your data is. Next question, isn't privacy just for people doing something wrong? No. That's like saying the only people who close their curtains are criminals. Privacy is about control, not guilt. The next question, can I delete my data from the internet? Well, sort of. You can request removal in California or the EU, but scrape data, that spreads fast. It's more about limiting future exposure than actually erasing anything from the past when it comes to your data. And here's the final myth. It's too late. Wrong. It's never too late. Every decision you make from this point forward, from right now today, what you download, what you click, who you trust, either protects your future or sells it off for convenience. So here's a challenge for you this week. 1, audit your phone. Go through every app and strip back every permission if you don't absolutely need it. 2, install a privacy-respecting tool. Maybe it's Signal, maybe it's Brave. You got to start somewhere. 3, have one conversation with your spouse, with your children, maybe a coworker. Talk about digital tracking. Most people have no idea how deep this rabbit hole goes. And then be sure to check out CAPE Mobile. Use code Survival Summit 33 at checkout. The link is in our bio. You're going to be supporting a company that's actually building freedom, not control. Thanks for hanging in with me today. I know this was a very short podcast. We're going to be back doing way more podcasts than we were before. Stay aware, stay resilient. If you don't protect your digital life, no one else will.